I am not the best light cruiser player in World of Warships, and this is not a review. This is a random extemporization of a game that I felt I had to share. It's a standard Tier 8 battle, and it is a CV game against the recently announced and incredibly overpowered, which you will see, USS Hornet. So, the UK light cruiser line. A magnificent line of ships that I regularly play at Tier 8, Tier 9, and above. Don't know why I said Tier 9 there. The Neptune is regularly regarded as being one of the worst ships in the line, and I sold it, actually. I sold it once I had the Minotaur and didn't come back to it. But anyway, the Minotaur is a well-regarded ship, and so is the Edinburgh. The Edinburgh is actually one of the more tanky UK light cruisers, in part to its citadel, which does not have a step, and therefore is not as vulnerable from being overmatched through the bow and stern. However, you are still vulnerable to being overmatched, of course. Standard light cruiser plating is 16mm, and that is vulnerable to shells that are actually of any battleship caliber. Any battleship that rolls up in the game is going to be able to go straight through your bow, straight through your stern, into your citadel, and we're already detected! And straight away the priority target indicator starts to go wild. Why is that? Well, as I say, people love to shoot at light cruisers. But we're hard spotted, actually. We're hard spotted on the surface by the Vasteras. And we have a surface detectability range of 8.9 kilometers, which means we can stealth radar for 100 meters. It's not much, but it does mean that any time anything detects us, we can immediately radar and see what it is because of that stealth radar window. And that's something that not all of the UK light cruisers can do. For example, the Neptune has great trouble doing that. I am using the radar modification, which you can buy in the armory for an amount of coal, 12,000 coal with the coupon, and that extends my radar duration to 33 seconds, which is enough for 3 salvos and then 1 blind salvo. And we're detected again because the Vasteras has come back straight away. So many ships want to shoot at us. Out of which the Zeton and the Bismarck, of course, are the most dangerous. The Zeton with its 6 16-inch guns, and the Bismarck with its 8 15-inch guns, all of which can go straight through us. And there we are, 5 people on priority target, the largest amount of people who shoot at us during this game, in fact. It's a miracle we came out alive, and just goes to show why I use the rudder shift mod instead of damage con, because it's no good having decreased flooding and fire timers if we're not alive to make use of them. And there's the Hornet's first strike on us, doing a ridiculous amount of damage and setting 2 fires. Could have been worse. I don't think he managed to penetrate our citadel, which is all the better for it. So, just sending a few torps in their direction. Even though the torpedoes are 8 kilometers range, they're very short and generally only useful if someone's going to rush you. Having them means we should use them, right? Well, torpedoes are free. And there are some of the Vasteras' torpedoes coming quite far away from us, even though our hydro had run out. So you'll see now that even though I've already used 2 of my smoke screens, I have 4 of them remaining, and the reload time for said consumable is very quick. A benefit of the short smoke screen consumable is that whilst they do run out quite quickly, they are reloaded in a very short time. Just going to break off to do some open water gunboating on the Devonshire over there. Taking a little fire in return, but we were spotted anyway by the CV, so we may as well try and get the damage off. So the CV's messed up his drop there, and he was using his special flight of B-25s, which the Hornet comes with. That's its special feature. and something that's hopefully going to get nerfed to hell. He's going to make his next attack on the AFK Bayern that I'm sailing past, despite the fact that the Bayern has moved. He's just left, and won't do anything else for the remainder of this game, so excellent team play there. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do. My anti-air isn't the best. Not that telling him in the chat is going to help that. But it always helps to distract the enemy as much as you can, even if I'm insulting him. So the Vastras has been spotted again. I'm taking a few pot shots at him, and his torpedoes have already reloaded, but they've run out because we are manoeuvring. I'm trying to do as much damage as I can to the Vastras, although leading these shells at such ranges becomes a little bit tricky. Ideally, I'd want to engage a destroyer within radar range, so that if they smoke up, I can remove them from the game. The Belfast 43 has quite a high alpha strike compared to even the Edinburgh because it fires high explosive shells. Now, no other UK light cruiser, apart from the original Tier 7 Belfast, has high explosive. And it's one of the trade-offs that the Belfast 43 makes, because is having high explosive worth 3 seconds of reload? The Edinburgh has a standard reload that's about 7 seconds. And the Belfast 33, the Vesteras doesn't survive this, by the way, because he cannot. Even though the Shiratsu is almost dead, we have to kill that destroyer whilst it's spotted. Yes, the Belfast 33 has a reload that is 3 seconds longer, at 10.5 seconds. And it's a bit of a nerf, isn't it? Considering that when you're shooting at destroyers, hunting destroyers, and trying to stack fires, you want to be throwing out as many shells as possible. But Wargaming, it seems, were determined not to repeat the example they made with the original Tier 7 Belfast, which is still overpowered for a Tier 7. As a Tier 8, Belfast 43 has to deal with far more radar, far more hydro, far more aggressive destroyers, far more heavy-hitting battleships. Although you are a light cruiser and a lot of battleship guns will just go straight through you. That is the necessary trade-off one has to accept when playing light cruisers. And it's something the Dunkirk is going to enjoy in a minute. Once I miss... well, not miss, but once I'm spotted. So there's a heavy push going on in front of us that, whilst we are slowing down, is managing to do quite a lot of detail. And there it is, the Dunkirk has citadeled us through the stern and dealt a rather large blow that I'm going to waste no time running away from. Sorry, Hyder, but your concealment's worse than mine, and you can get away from this. Actually, so can I. I'm dark again, but not for long because the CV is coming back. He's coming back because he has set his heart on farming down the few targets over here to death. At this point, I should mention my build and its quirks and features. I'm using the Superintendent skill to give me an additional charge of radar and an additional smoke. And I'm using the Survivability Expert skill, which bumps up my health from around about 34,000 to 42,000. And as you can see, it's something this ship really does need, because I don't have a heal. That is right. Despite being an identical hull to its sister ship, the Edinburgh, Belfast 43 doesn't have a heal. And this was another balancing factor that Wargaming decided this ship would benefit from. But, you may ask, does it really matter? Because if you're going to be citadeled, the light cruiser heal, the heal that the Edinburgh class gets, doesn't repair citadel damage very well. I think it only repairs 10% of citadel damage compared to around about 50% for normal penetration damage. So, how much would I be able to repair? Perhaps not that much. And at the end of the day, losing your health means your adrenaline rush is going to kick in and provide you with a really necessary DPM boost. Reload's probably around about 8 seconds by now, and we're going to need that because though we're only 10 minutes in, we are even on ships and the enemy team has more points. And they've got even more points because we've lost another ship. a tier 8 battleship for a tier 8 cruiser. Is that a fair trade? No, it's not. Is it what this team's going to do for the next 10 minutes? Yes, it is. I'm actually limited slightly by the commander that I'm using on this ship, as it's not my 21-point British captain and therefore doesn't have RPF. I use RPF on my destroyers, of course, and my destroyer hunters. Cossack Daring, excellent for that. But whilst this ship is actually an excellent destroyer hunter as well, I don't have RPF simply because I don't have the points. But it provides a more realistic portrayal of the ship. Just getting a couple of shots off at the CV, and the Devonshire that has succeeded in rushing down our Shiratsuyu, who was really way out of position. But something has clapped the CV. Whether it was the friendly Bismarck, who our carrier is doing a great job of protecting, or, yeah, it definitely was. The rest of the team is trying to push for the enemy's base and chasing a kiting Sinop. They're not going to have much luck up there, unfortunately. But they're way out of position, which is one of the reasons that I hate this game mode. I hate standard battles, because you can't focus caps, you can't really go for the enemy destroyers unless you really do know where they are, and it really limits the effectiveness of my radar, which is why this isn't a review. My review of Belfast 43 will be coming at a later date, but this isn't a review because it really doesn't show off this ship in its best light. The Bismarck just clapping us nicely through the back again there, but that wasn't a citadel. It was only either a penetration or an over-penetration, because it didn't do 10k damage. And we're very thankful for that, because if it had, we would have a lot less health and no way to heal it at all. So the CB's come out, and I've taken the shot, got to kill that, because if we don't, the only thing that can get him is the friendly CV, and the friendly CV is occupied. Friendly CV is a very good player, actually, as you'll see at the end of this battle. But we've lost some more ships, and though we are ahead for now, who knows what's going to happen. Well, I do, but you'll see in a minute. Anyway, ignoring the chat again, just complimenting, shall we say, the enemy CV and his incredible gameplay. Either that, or the ship was hard carrying him. The fact is, I've chosen this game to highlight because of the massive and necessary change that CVs force surface ships into playing as. I can't sneak around, I can't chase any of their ships, in fact, because every time that CV comes back I have to use one of my smoke screens. And it's a good thing that I have an additional charge for that, as I'm gonna run out of it. If I had, say, a traditional number of long smoke screens, yes, I could sit in that smoke screen and I could spam the enemy, but I'd be short of spotting. I wouldn't know what was sneaking up on me. And at the end of the day, people can blind fire into a smoke screen. And if a light cruiser is caught in open water without a smoke screen to hide itself, it's in a bit of a difficult spot. So, anyway, the enemy Bismarck is trying to go bow into us here, and I'm using all 12 of my guns to try and stack a couple of fires on him, because we can't be charged down by a tier 8 battleship. Now, we do have torpedoes, but he's still out of their range, because 8km torps are only really usable when someone is charging you, and he's not close enough yet to use them. If you don't save your torps until you can see the whites of the enemy's eyes, the enemy's going to turn away, and then they're going to nail you. Anyway, original Belfast. Does original Belfast have this problem? And the answer is that yes, it does, because whilst its smoke screens are very long and its reload is very short... Oh, got clapped through the back for quite an accurate salvo from the Bismarck, which is another thing why we focused him, because if he gets close to us, that happens. And now I'm going to be running away very quickly. It's a good thing that the enemy CV's gone, because if he was back, he'd be focusing us. And he did manage to get 2 further drops off after he died. He managed to kill the enemy Bismarck, and then go for us one more time. Not that he did a large amount of damage then, but Even so, it was quite ridiculous. Having to face, of course, Tier 8 aircraft, the Tier 8 Belfast actually has worse AA in comparison to its Tier 7 hull variant. Yeah, I suppose variant is the right word for a removed ship that Wargaming felt they had to bring back. And it wasn't a terrible decision. It's just a shame they were so scared of repeating the mistake that they had made with the original Belfast. Is the Tier 8 Belfast a poor comparison? Well, not really, at the end of the day. You have to consider Tier 8 matchmaking, prevalence of radar, prevalence of CVs, and the fact that Tier 7 Belfast is going to see Tier 9s a lot more, and of course, it has to deal with being up-tiered 2 times, whereas Tier 8 Belfast is more capable of being up-tiered to Tier 10. So, we are on a ship's advantage, but whilst Gate is trying to cap their base, they are both being now hunted down by the Synop, which has turned around from its earlier kind of position, and so are therefore caught between a rock and a hard place, figuratively speaking. We've got nothing left. The Nürnberg, although it just took a chunk from the Heinrich, is pushing up alongside the Zeton. The Zeton is getting another heal off and pushing into 2 ships that are below it in tier, and the Synop is repeatedly airstriking the Guide, appearing to try and reveal its position through the Guide's anti-aircraft fire, which is a valid strategy. So, taking a couple of pot shots at the Nürnberg and getting a fire on him there, trying to do as much damage as we can from our position, where, of course, we've run out of smoke screens, and we have lost 2 enemy ships and are down on points. Fortunately, though, before we can throw the game, the friendly CV comes in and removes the extremely low health Nürnberg. Kill securing, perhaps, but securing, not stealing, and we needed that kill. In fact, to get the points lead, that will not change until the end of the battle. So at this point, we're quite restricted. We have to stay in the base, defending the base from the Zeton, and we can't take much more. There are a large amount of potential damage for a light cruiser. Shows just incredibly how focused we were at the beginning of the match, and really the amount of tanking that we were forced to do because of the AFK Bayern, among other ships. And the Zeton, of course, he can't see us from behind this island, but we can fire over it. And we can set him on fire. Would it be better to just continue chunking him with the improved UK armor-piercing shells? Perhaps it would, and perhaps we'd have a far better reload as well. Alternatively, perhaps it wouldn't. Fire damage is a reliable way of getting damage, and HE spamming isn't a playstyle that I find extremely attractive, except when it's coupled with the high-risk, high-reward strategy that is playing a very fragile cruiser, an eggshell armed with eggshells, because the guns of the Belfast 43 are nothing special. They are 12 to 152 millimeters. They have a long reload for their tier, and not the best fire chance actually. But they do the job, especially against destroyers, because they have improved alpha damage over both the original Belfasts and the Edinburghs, being able to slap destroyers with 12 152mm high explosive shells that are probably quite accurate. And there's the end of the game. The battle timer is running out. We have succeeded, and we have not tried to win any harder trying to kill secure the Zeton, because if we were spotted and we died, that would be it. And there it is, the end of the game.